Hello and welcome everyone to The Steep. My name is Tim Hayden and I'll be your host. Our guest on this episode is Alex James. Alex is a necrotizing fasciitis survivor from California and she's here to talk about her experience. Let's add Alex to the show. Hi Alex, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Alex. I'm 29 years old and I live in California. Right now I'm going back to school to study coding. I have a kid. I have a very cute French bulldog, and yeah.
That's awesome. I just want to let everyone know that there are going to be graphic photos throughout this episode. So let that everybody know about that. So, Alex, how did your story get started? Your experience with NF?
Okay, so back in February of 2021, I went to get my wisdom teeth removed, and everything was normal and was going good. And then a couple of days later, I had very severe swelling. I couldn't talk, I couldn't eat. Everything in like my cheeks area was just so painful. And then eventually, over time, I started experiencing more symptoms. Like I could feel like the pain moving down to my throat. I was throwing up a lot. I had a fever. People were telling me that I was losing my color, like I was a little yellow. And the pain was just so bad. So eventually I ended up going back to the dentist. I went back 2 times actually, and he gave me different antibiotics both times, and they just didn't really help. And then eventually I ended up going to the emergency room because my heart was racing and it was just beating so fast and I knew something was wrong. Yeah.
Right. Did you have any other symptoms of it? Did anybody see any red streaks, from it or anything?
No. So honestly, I do not think that I had any symptoms that were like visible on the outside. It
Right.
seems like it was mostly just like, fever, lethargic, pain. Um, I definitely felt like I had swelling, but I don't really know how visible the swelling was.
Well, and two, the pain kind of makes things hazy, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. I was pretty out of it and I didn't really realize how out of it I was.
So, when you got to the hospital this time, did you see the same doctors or different doctors?
So, I went into the emergency room, and they took me right away. They did a blood test. They did a couple of things. They took me right away, and it wasn't any doctors that I was familiar with because. So I think at this point, I didn't end up having surgery till like midnight. So it wasn't anyone I was familiar with. It was all new people, but they're very nice. I was out of it. So they did try to explain everything to me as best as they could, but I just wasn't really understanding it. But I'm very fortunate enough to have a really good support system. So my mom and my dad were able to, they weren't able to come in with me because it was during COVID and no visitors, if you're over 18, were allowed to come in. But they were able to call them and explain everything. And then she was able to calm me down and explain it to me.
I imagine it's quite a shock to your parents to
Oh,
hear
heck
that.
yeah. Yeah,
And
we went in thinking that I'd probably get pain medicines and maybe like a stronger antibiotic and not, a whole. I was in the hospital, I want to say 3 weeks, so we definitely were not expecting that.
uh, so, what treatment did they? I mean, when did they recognize that it was NF to be able to start the treatments?
So that night, so I think I went into the hospital. I think I went into the emergency room like maybe it was late. Honestly, I don't know what time was, but it was late. Um, and I've been to the emergency room multiple times before. And I live in a small town. It's a little bit slow. That was the quickest I've ever been in there. I felt like they really diagnosed it quickly, and then were able to start treatment quickly. So I had like maybe I think in the first 2 days is when I had the most surgery. Um, I don't know exactly like the timeline, but I eventually did have 4 surgeries on my throat. and then I did have two on my chest. Um, the it didn't spread like to my heart; it was just around it. Luckily,
So it did actually start to affect your chest area, though.
yes, yes. And they told me, they later on told me that I was very septic, and that's kind of why I wasn't feeling too good and was really out of it.
Right. So did they that night? At any point, did they let you know how serious necrotizing fasciitis was, or were you just too out of it to register what they were really saying?
Honestly, I don't know. Um, I really don't remember them telling me right away, like the night that I went into the emergency room, what it was. I know that they told me that it was a life-threatening, I think they said bacteria, that life-threatening disease, something like that, that needed to be addressed that night. And then I don't really have much memory of the couple of days that followed. I think I was really out of it for about like 3 to 4 days. And then after that, I really came to, and that's when they really explained the severity of everything that I went through, and how good it was that I came in to got treatment when I did. Because if I would have waited any longer, it could have been, I might not have been here today.
Um, well, you've got some photos here I'll put up, and you can kind of
Yes.
talk us through it.
Okay. So that's like when I was really feeling well enough to take a picture. I was going through a lot at that time, but I knew that I wanted to document it, even though I wasn't feeling good. I didn't like the way I was looking at that time, but I knew that I needed to document it. And so that was like the first picture that I took. Um, but it was also like the first time I saw myself, because when I went through this whole ordeal, like I couldn't get out of bed and just go to the bathroom, like I wanted to. So I never saw myself in the mirror. And that was the first time. That was my, oh wow, like this is a really big deal.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. You look very, very sickly, I guess you would say, because I could see the yellowness that you were talking about
Yeah,
through your cheeks.
definitely. Yes. And then, so this was the first time that I got out of the bed and was walking around. So this was the second hospital I went to. I was at Stanford Hospital. Really, really amazing hospital. I had really great staff there that were helping me, really motivating me to get out of bed, and supporting me when I really needed it physically to get out of bed, and just yeah, they were so great to me there.
Did you have to go through any physical therapy?
I did, yes. So I went through, I'm trying to think. I don't think I did physical therapy for that long, actually. I want to say it was maybe, no, two months is kind of a lot of physical therapy, possibly. I'm not sure. Um, but I think I did like 2 to 3 months, and that was probably like 3 months after I was out of the hospital, because they wanted to wait until I had drains in my neck, and they wanted to wait till those were removed and I had more healing before I was in their office. Yeah, that's when I was definitely feeling more like myself in that picture. I had to throw my little filter on, and let kind of just let everyone know that like I was okay, and that I survived, and that I'm here and I'm smiling. And
Did they do any skin grafts on you?
no.
No, they just kind of let it heal.
Yes. And then that's me with my mom. That's when that was the first time I made it home after very long 3 weeks in two different hospitals.
So at any point did they, I mean, because as serious as the condition you were in, did they ever let
Mhm.
your parents ever come in at all? I know the COVID regulations, but
Nope, unfortunately, no. So the only visitors that I had were I'm trying to think of what they call them. They're not, I guess maybe they're called priests. You know how there's usually some sort of religious
yes,
people in
yes.
the church? Those were actually the only visitors that I had, because those were the only people who were allowed due to COVID. And then so that's when I was home. That's what my surgery scars looked like right after. Um, I
You
think I
can see the drain in the front
Yeah, you
there.
can see the tubing. So my surgery scars go from like up here, it was higher on my chin to like almost my ears,
I mean,
as you can see in the picture. And so yeah, that's what it looked like as it was healing. It was very, very swollen at
if
that
you want
part.
to show them again, I'll pull your picture up where
Oh
you're.
yeah. Okay. So my surgery, it was from here all the way to like almost ears, about here. And yeah, they were just really swollen, very like 3D. I do have some scarring on my chest too that goes down to here.
Right. Let's see. Go to that one. Go to the next one.
Okay. And then yeah, so that just kind of shows more of the chest scarring. So I did have to have staples, and yeah, it goes down a
It,
little bit further, but I, didn't show everything.
right. It does. It looks really good there. I mean, as far as a wound can look.
Yeah, that was I want to say maybe that was like a month or two after getting home from the hospital. And yeah, that's more of just what it looked like healed. So as you can see, my neck was very tight. I actually, part of the physical therapy that I did was to be able to hold my neck up because I was like kind of like hunched over. They did have to take out a lot of the tissue and some of the muscle that I had in my neck because it was completely infected by the bacteria.
Well, again, the scarring looks really good in these
Yeah.
photos.
Thank you.
Um, so, how did this? How does this affect how people approached you with your scar being visible?
Okay, so it was really difficult for me at first. To have such visible scarring that people wanted to talk to you about and ask you a billion questions, and I didn't like it. So it was definitely
Right.
a learning process. But just to have scars be so visible was just it was really hard for me. I'm a girly girl, I want everything to be perfect and look nice.
Sure.
And so this has kind of taught me that my looks really aren't that important. Um, but at the same time, I think I'm now, after healing, and not that I'm completely healed, but just being on that journey, I realized that it's actually a really good way to talk about necrotizing fasciitis to people and inform them and let them know what it is, because no one that I've talked to has even known what it was. And I wouldn't have known what this was if I didn't get sick. So I think it's a great opportunity to educate people. And, it's been over a year. So now I'm at this point. But when I first got home and like had all my tubes and stuff and my stitches and my staples, it was very difficult.
Do you have many cruel people? I say cruel as far as making comments or anything, just that you overhear.
Yeah. Okay. So I No. Yeah, I mean, yeah, yes and no. So, I feel like in my head, I was imagining more people were going to be cruel. There was a lot of assumptions that I had about how people would stare or what they'd say or what they'd ask. Um, I think I've gotten some, I don't know how to word it, like different odd comments. Because I actually got asked a lot if it was scarification, as in like, so scarification is usually like when someone scars themselves because they want to look cool or edgy or
Right.
different. So I got that quite a lot, but I think, to me, I think that was probably like the cruelest thing that I overheard. Other than that, I think I've been pretty fortunate. No one's really been mean. It's just a bombardment of questions that I don't always want to answer.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
sure. And then you just feel like you repeat yourself over and over and over every time you
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
walk around with the recorder and say, "Here, listen to this."
Yeah, exactly, huh?
So, how did this affect you psychologically
So I
and
feel
emotionally?
it took a lot of healing that I had to do, um, to one, not be so hard on myself about my looks and realize that there's way more to life than what I look like. Um, but even just being able to trust a dentist again, you know, I can't 100% say that I got this from the dentist, but being at the dentist and having my tooth removed, and that was most likely how it went into my bloodstream, that is a huge fear that I have now that I'm still trying to tackle, you know? But I think it's definitely left me with some PTSD and just probably a little bit of being a germophobic now, you know, because bacteria
Sure,
live
sure.
everywhere. They can get in anytime, you know. So it's definitely been a lot of healing that I've had to do. And I'm still on that journey.
Well, with your dentist, I'm not saying go back to the same dentist, but
No.
now that you've had it and you know about it, you're able to talk with the dentist beforehand, before they actually do any work on you, so they can kind of make preparations. Because I know if I'm going to have anything major done in my mouth, I go to the same dentist, and he knows.
Hmm.
He'll ask me, do you want to take an antibiotic for as a precaution, or he does what I need to feel comfortable,
Yeah,
whatever
that's
I
good.
feel most comfortable with. And I hope that you will be able to find that in a dentist, to know that you have the fear of unclean utensils. So maybe they'll take extra time to make sure they're extra clean, or to show
Yeah.
you that they're opening them up from the seals just to help make you comfortable. I mean,
Yeah. I honestly I haven't gone back to the dentist since then. I'm still trying to look for one that kind of meets my standards now, you know, like you're saying.
mhm.
But I know that I will definitely find one, and I know that I will be able to conquer that fear, and you know, because teeth health is very important.
Well, I'm not trying to diss any of our local dentists here,
Yeah.
but the one that I found finally that I'm comfortable with, he works in another county, so I drive about 45 minutes to see him
Oh,
just
okay.
because I feel comfortable with him. They
Yeah.
make me feel comfortable. They know everything that's going on, that went on.
Yeah.
Um, has this affected your daily life? I mean, you said you were a germaphobe. That's one aspect of it. Does it affect you in any other your daily living in any other way?
So, as of now, I really don't think it did. But until I was able to get like the physical therapy, it definitely did. Cause like I said, I couldn't hold my head up. Like I just physically didn't have the strength to do it. So I think that really was just the strength of my neck, you know, like you can't drive a car. I wasn't working at the time. Just like things like, you know, like brushing my teeth was hard because like my head was just down. I
Mm-hmm.
think that was probably like the most limiting part that I had to deal with.
And if my memory serves me correctly, you've got a son.
Yes, yes, I do. Yeah.
Uh, how did he deal with when you went through this? How did he cope with that?
So I think the hardest part was just not being able to come see me. You know, that was spending 3 weeks away from him was definitely very hard. I know that it was a huge adjustment to not have me there and helping with, you know, bedtime routine and homework and getting up for school and packing lunches. You know, I did have my parents who were very, very helpful, and I'm very fortunate for that. But you know, it's not the same as having mom do it. So I think
Right.
it was hard. It was definitely very hard for him. I know that when I was able to come back home, he was like connected to my hip. He's always been a mama's boy, so it was a little bit more like that once I got home too. And he was a really good helper because he knew that there were things that I couldn't do. Um, my energy was super low, you know, so there were things I couldn't do, and he was very understanding and very patient. And I think that he was just so happy to have me home.
Right. So I guess there's not any really any effects on him at this point, a year after.
Yeah, no, not really.
That's
I mean,
good.
he's definitely, I think he's more cautious too, you know. I honestly I feel like the people around me are definitely more cautious when it comes to if you have a cut to keep it clean and put a band-aid on it, you know. Yeah.
Uh, so, what did you do occupation wise before this?
So before that, I actually worked for a cannabis company, and I helped them with their inventory.
That's a lot of looking up using your head because you're
Yes.
doing inventory. You're everywhere.
Yeah,
Uh,
yes.
are you able to go back to that, or did you pick up another?
So I did eventually go back. Honestly, I had a really great employer. I no longer work for them, but at the time they pretty much kind of changed my job duties to accommodate my needs, you know, because there
Right.
was a lot of like physical lifting and stuff that I couldn't do. I actually needed more time off than I had originally anticipated because I wasn't able to get into physical therapy when I was hoping. They were super, understanding of that and really just wanted me to get healthy so that I can get back and do my job
Are
fully.
Are you having any lingering effects now physically?
So I feel like one of the lingering effects that I have is mostly just with my neck. So I've realized even it's about I want to say at least a year and a half about there's still some movements I can't really do with my neck. I do plan on going back to physical therapy, but I think it's mostly just with my neck. Realize I struggle when I go from sitting up to laying down or laying down to sitting up. I have noticed too that I think because I had to overcompensate for like my neck being low, like I tend to have my shoulders up more, and I just these things with my shoulders and my neck that I realize like
Right.
I'm like this, and that doesn't feel good and it causes pain. So I think it's a lot of corrections that I have to do.
I understand that. I've got neck problems too, and doing these, I notice my head's all twisted sideways
Yeah, it's
sometimes.
it's funny how our bodies kind of just move in these positions because it's more comfortable, but it's probably not really good for us.
But when I turn my head the right way, it feels awkward, like
Yeah,
out of place.
yeah.
It's weird. It's weird. I don't know. I've got the muscle in mine still. You don't. So
Yeah.
you've got. Did it take you long to learn to compensate to do things?
I think it did. It definitely took me longer than I anticipated. Um, I would say I want to say it took me probably like a full, like not a year, but definitely more than like 6 months, you know. Um, for a really long time, I was okay when I was sitting up, but I struggled a lot when I was laying down from just like being able to turn from one side of my body to the other side. And I realized that there were like my neck just felt awkward. Like I don't really know how to explain it. Like it just felt awkward. It felt off, like not how it was. So I eventually ended up getting not necessarily a neck brace because I wanted to be able to move my neck, but I kind of started just wrapping, like rolling up a towel and wrapping it around my neck just so it felt supported, even though I didn't really need the support, you know?
Don't know if this would help you. What I found that helped me a lot is the travel pillow.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, especially when I was in the car, just because there was a lot of like going back and accelerating and stuff.
Hmm.
So I definitely used my neck pillow a lot.
Yeah, it helps me a lot too. Uh, so back to mom. How is she
Mhm.
doing now with all of this? I mean,
She
I
is
cannot.
doing,
I'm a
uh,
big advocate of the family. You know, I wouldn't want to be the family member,
mhm,
the loved one, to go through that.
yeah. I think it was definitely really hard. I think one of the hardest parts was just not being able to see me, you know. Um, I Okay, so I want to say that there was probably maybe 4 to 5 days. I would say at least a week. I was completely out of it, like completely. I have since realized that I do not handle pain meds very well. So I was having a lot of hallucinations. I was having a lot of, I want to just say hallucinations, like thinking things are happening when they weren't actually
Mm-hmm.
happening, So I think that part was probably the hardest on her because I was like texting her like I'm not at the hospital, like come get me, and I have her on Fine Friends, and she was like, "No, you're at the hospital, like you're okay." So I think that was probably the hardest, but I could tell that my family definitely like was more relaxed when I got home, when they were able to see me, with their own eyes and be like, and then of course when I was able to talk, because of where my surgeries were, I had a feeding tube and a breathing tube, so I wasn't able to communicate, which was also difficult because I couldn't call them and be like, "Hey, mom, like I'm okay." It was
Right.
me relying on text messages, and then on top of it, so I wear contact lenses, and without my contact lenses I am visually impaired, so it's not very easy to send out a text message, and I wasn't making sense, and I was so out of it. I was so out of it. So I think just having me home was just such a big relief, and when I was 100% there and realizing that I was actually in one of the most safest place ever and I was okay, and things like that.
For sure. For sure. Well, Alex, thank you for being here and sharing your experience with us.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Uh, if you want to hang out for a few minutes backstage, I'll be back there in a few minutes.
Okay, sounds good.
I'd like to thank Alex James for being here today. And please subscribe to our YouTube channel. I hope to see you next time for another episode of Steep. Remember, be kind and to smile.